Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Wednesday, the 14th day of the month of May, 2025. It is Wednesday of the fourth week of the Easter season. It is the 25th and halfway point of our celebration of the Easter season. Also 7 months until Christmas. So think about all that together. So halfway point in the Easter celebration, and then 7 months today until Christmas. So it all kind of wraps itself up together wonderfully. Here at the Catholic Center, there's a priest council meeting, and we had our first communion mass with our first communion recipients in the second grade today back at St. Francis. So a whole lot of things are happening. So I think this is coming up just a little bit late, but it still is morning so far. So to get to it, today is also the feast in which we honor the memory of Saint Matthias. He is the one who replaces Judas as one of the 12 after Judas basically loses his way, commits his suicide, and the need to maintain the number of 12. Again, this number that represented the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 sons of Jacob, who again became part of the promise of the Israel that God creates as chosen people. Jesus again recreates this in a broader way with these apostles who will then go to the ends of the earth to proclaim the name of Christ and what Christ has done for us. And so we don't know much about Matthias. We don't know anything more about the fact that he was selected. There isn't much ever said about him. A lot of it is legend that we don't really know how reliable it is, but we do have an Acts of the Apostles where he is chosen. Let one basically take the place of the one who was lost. And the lot falls to Matthias, and he becomes numbered as one of the 12. So that's our first reading for today, is basically to give us the chronology, or give us the narrative of Matthias' choice as one of the 12. Always remember, though, again, that Judas is there in two of the synoptics when body and blood, bread and wine are blessed and spoken about. And so again, Judas is privileged, to this gift that God gives, but he decides, to refuse it in some ways by, again, fearing the world and fearing what it is that God or that Christ can do, or that God can do in Jesus. So Matthias does not seem to have feared that, and he becomes one of the 12. The reading that there's the Gospel today from John's Gospel, chapter 15, we move to this time now, basically in which Jesus talks about the fact that to live on, in his love is what we are supposed to do. And we do that by doing what it is that he asks us to do. Again, which are those 5 basic attitudes: to love, to forgive, to believe, to give, and to not judge each other. But we find that difficult to do on our own, which is, again, why this body and blood, this presence of Christ that comes into us to become part of our own life, is so important. The big thing about this is that the connection to Christ that we get through receiving him as Eucharist is something that then enables us to do what we are called to do and called to be in this world. Again, we are not called to be people who rule. We are not called to be people who govern. We are not called to be people who order people around. We are not called to be people who judge. We are not called to be people who say you are in and you are out. We are not called to be people who oppress with rules and regulations. We are not called to be people who basically try to create an institution whose continued survival is the only important thing that matters. Because sometimes, again, it seems as though we have lost ourselves, and these are all the things that we only care about as a church, or as a community of faith, a community of believers. And Jesus basically says it quite clearly in John 15. Our duty is to love each other, to love those who come into our lives, to love others again and again and again. This is the witness that we give. This is where Jesus speaks about the fruit that we will bear. It is not by how much that we live in a bubble of making sure that our devotions and our practices and whatever it is, are done correctly and things like that. It is about making sure that our love, shows to this world the power of love, and our love shows to this world something it itself is fearful to understand, that without love we are nothing. Without love there can be no hope, there can be no future for us, there can be no destiny that is ours. That Jesus teaches love and the importance of love, and we are called to take up that teaching, to make it our own and to spread it to the ends of the earth. This is what Easter represents for us: the ability of love to conquer everything that we fear, the ability of love to show the truth of who and what we are. Let us live up to that as this Easter season continues. A blessed Easter season, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.